I'm Eugene Cooper. I'm a professor of anthropology here at the University of Southern California. The book is The Market and Temple Fairs of Rural China. It's based on a multi-sided investigation that I carried out in the late 1990s, supplemented by some additional ethnography. The subtitle of the book is Red Fire, and that's a Chinese phrase, Honghuo, which describes the bubbling, what Marcel Mauss would have called the effervescence of temple fair activity. Adam Zhao, who's kind of an authority on Chinese religion and popular culture at Cambridge, uses the metaphor Honghuo to propose what he calls a sociothermic theory of Chinese sociality. That is to say, you measure the degree of sociality by the amount of heat that's generated by an event. And the temple fair is the example par excellence of this heat that people use to describe the metaphoric excitement of participation in temple fair activities, and the press of the crowds, and just the sheer humanity of the gathering. And so that is the sort of the subtitle, and that's exactly meant to evoke that sense of bubbling excitement that tends to characterize the fairs and the participants in them. In the course of our research on craftsmen in Dongyang, we went from, well, there were 3 or 4 towns that we went to in succession, each of which had one of these market fairs. Their secular commodity trade fairs was being held in the town on the particular week that we happened to be there. And it was just, wow, all these people out on the throngs of people out on the streets, and performers of all sorts of performance genres, storytellers, opera performers, kung fu aficionados out there on the street performing, everything out there in public. And you know, I had done this work in Dongyang where everything was sort of, very close to the chest, and nobody wanted to let you see anything, and everything was more arranged ahead of time, and I, and here was this amazing context in which the public performance of everything was the essence of the institution. And I said to myself, wow, this is really something. If it had been any other country in the world, Professor Jiang and I could have immediately changed the focus of our research and started to investigate that. But because it had already taken 5 years to get our proposal to study rural industry approved, the thought of changing in midstream was just not in the cards. But I nevertheless determined to return and investigate that market fair phenomenon for itself. My argument in the book is that in the traditional context, the temple fair was a total social phenomenon. It included a religious element and a popular cultural element and an economic component and a secular as well as a religious component, and in this sense represented what Marcel Mauss would have called a total social phenomenon. So the book suggests that the reintroduction of secular commodity trade fairs kind of served as first the stimulus for the proliferation of popular performance genres of all kinds, shuochang, speech sing, and storytelling, and kung fu performances, and opera, and a whole variety of popular cultural performances, which were stimulated by the provision of this new context in which to perform. And at the same time, they also provided a setting where the popular religious revival, which was already going on all over China, found a venue that was altogether appropriate to its past ordinary way of conducting its rituals. And since the secular market fairs, some of them have been scheduled on the dates where these traditional temple fairs had been held anyway, it made sense to the local people to refurbish that temple and complete the total social phenomenon of the traditional past. Now, nowadays, the traditional past is not exactly like the traditional past, and a lot has happened since traditional temple fairs existed prior to 1949. And so some things have changed and some things have evolved, but these performance genres are still extant. The local opera has been revived and stimulated by this, and so my argument is that these fairs have, in effect, served to expand the boundaries of acceptable popular expression in China today, popular cultural expression and popular religious expression, by providing a venue for their practitioners to do their thing and, in some sense, make it possible for people to express themselves in ways that they never have before.